The Cleveland Cavaliers, buy, sell, or hold. The endlessly fascinating Cleveland Cavaliers.
That's a hard buy for me. Not just because of where they are and their chance to like finish as the freaking number one seed in the East. It's they've got Rubio's expiring that they can move, and they can double dip now because they did get granted the disabled player exception for 8.9 million. They have another tool to improve the roster, not a trade asset per se, but so you've got Rubio, you've got Sexton that it seems very clear that they don't want to pay, that another team might have interest in giving you something of more present value for, that they might want to get as restricted rights. This to me is a clear Eric Gordon destination, or any other, scoring capable of dribbling guard or wing that's out there. I feel like that's just, if Goran Dragic gets bought out, like the Cavs should put in a call, like that type of thing. But their buyers, I think they need to be looking for ball handlers, guards, wings, because they got the bigs and they got Darius Garland, and there's, they're set there. But they really need, the in between stuff.
I am going to tell them to hold, because look, if there's the buy, maybe I should say this is another light buy. Collin Sexton's injured and out for the season. So what is his trade? Like, you're still probably better off moving him in a potential sign and trader after he signs his next deal. He makes so little money, and his next team wouldn't be acquiring him thinking he's coming back this year, most likely. So what does that help you get? And I'm not giving up Collin Sexton to get Eric Gordon. Like, that just doesn't make a ton of sense for this team. And don't rush this timeline. Evan Mobley, Darius Garland, those guys are young. Ditto for Jared Allen. You have him under contract for 5 years. Isaac Okoro is young. If you could do something like Rubio, and you're not giving up a first-round pick, and you're getting Eric Gordon, or you're getting Caris LeVert, those are moves I'd be looking at. I think it was it Danny LaRue suggested, like, this would be a good Dennis Schroeder destination. Just basically, he's so cheap, gives you just another guard, and he's gone after the season. So, and that doesn't cost you any of your core assets, and it shouldn't cost you a future first-round pick. I recognize that they're spectacular. I'm just not approaching this deadline with any sort of urgency, to where if it costs the Cavs a future first, I'm still a little bit reticent. You could protect the hell out of it. Maybe that makes you easier. And you do have that Rubio expiring contract as a ready-made money matching tool. But I'm just looking at the names out there, and I'm like, yeah, look, if Caris LeVert can be had without having to guarantee a first-round pick, ditto for Eric Gordon, those are great fits. But if you start getting into that realm, I think you need to be closer to full strength to consider that.
Yeah, I mean, I would say, though, like, the Cavs' first-round picks are not going to be that high, it looks like, for a few years now. So it's not, all first-round picks are not the same. Yeah, I agree. Like, they don't need to be urgent buyers, but I think they should be very opportunistic. I don't know if I'm Houston and the Cavs call me up with, you can have Rubio's expiring and Collin Sexton for Eric Gordon, and we mess around with the money to make that work. I mean, like, Gordon's under contract next year too, and if we're probably overvaluing Gordon because he's playing, like, he's shooting the best he's ever shot right now. But if the sign and trade is a compelling argument for keeping Sexton around, because you can extract value that way, but I really don't think Sexton has a future in Cleveland. I think you want a very different type of backcourt partner for Darius Garland than Sexton, who's undersized and is not a defender and needs the ball, and all the criticisms we've heard forever. I don't know. I don't hate that for the Cavs. You'd like to do something.
Giving up
like somebody
Sexton
younger,
soon to be, or eventually like a 33-year-old Eric Gordon. That's just
I don't know. Well, the thing is, if you have no interest in Sexton, it's hard to say. And Rubio is like, I mean, there's an opportunity cost, right? If you give up Rubio and that, like, nice 17.8 million expiring for just Gordon. But if you're going to do something now, again, your point's good that it doesn't need to be now. I don't hate it. It's something I would think about. I'd have to look a little harder at, like, what someone comparable to Sexton has been able to get somebody in a sign and trade in the offseason before I was, guns blazing on getting rid of him right now. But it's interesting to me, at least.
I would, rather than have to do something like that, I would ask, and I know they're different players, but Rubio plus what? And it's not a first, it's not Sexton for Gary Harris. I'd rather just give me his expiring contract, lower cost. This presupposes that you don't want to re-sign Rubio, which know, his market isn't. It's not going to be too. He was playing well and was important to their second unit, but his market isn't going to be too robust following this ACL injury. I would imagine that is something I like. Those are I would buy, but like I'm looking at those types of moves rather than if you're including Sexton or even this year's first. I just view that as more aggressive, and I don't know that a player is going to elevate them enough. Whoever they acquire very much feels like he's going to be filling a hole or some sort of like a insurance against the way their roster is set up now, not who's going to push them over the top.
Yeah, and the thing is, with how young their best players are, there is not an available $20 million guy who fills their need on the wing that is 22 years old. There's like that guy's not out there. So yeah, it's a tough fit for sure.
So we have to backtrack again. Who would be your most likely player to get traded from Chicago?
Let me look back. I'll say Troy Brown Jr. He's one of their expiring. He's a little cheaper than Derek Jones.
I'm going to say that too, because I think that maybe they use him to try and like bolster the backup 5 rotation or something. And then for the Cavs, who do you have as their most likely player to be traded?
I think it's Rubio, right? I mean, like, if only because expiring salaries are still valuable, and he enabled, if they want to do something, he's the way that they get it done.
I'll go with him too. It's just wild because he makes so much money that you're probably making a not insignificant move if that happens. And I wouldn't endorse them doing that. They just really don't have anyone else to trade beyond that. And they're not going to, they're semi close to the tax, but they're within, they're closer to 4 million under it right now. So you don't need to they just don't have these middling salaries that they're going to move. Like, what is the benefit of them like getting rid of Dean Wade? Or I guess you could say Dylan Windler or something, but there's, I think it has to be Rubio for them at this point. Mm-hmm. They're so good that I understand the temptation for them to do something at the deadline.